Frank Sinatra was backstabbing Kennedy for the gang that murdered him. For example, Bob Hope saw Kennedy off from the Oval Office on his fatal trip to Dallas. This is James McRyland Crary. I go by Mac Crary. Mac was my grandfather. This is Radio Free Iowa. If you've ever seen the book Tonkin Gulf Incident, you know there's a picture on the back of a small bullet hole in the hull of a ship that was fired by a pistol. And it came from the rifle of one of the officers on board. One of the pistols from the officer on board. They called that a torpedo hole and went into Tonkin Gulf. Green Berets, the weirdest movie ever made, photographed from that familiar Lee Harvey Oswald, John Wayne, ends with the man being killed. He was going to get to go all the way home, all the way. Weirdest movie ever made opens with the Marines singing in German. So Kennedy, we now know from the film project, was murdered over Hiroshima, executed as a war criminal. Then the Marines came singing in German and launched the Vietnam War through the manufacture of Tonkin Gulf. Easy money, as they say among their allies. It was a comprehensive Axis restructuring of American loyalties that is going on right this minute. And of course, we've had the apologists pretending that's not what happened, led by the Jeffin Corporation, Hillary Clinton, and that Marshall Grove Wigger installation, Barack Obama. The hidden history of my work, of course, goes into what I learned as a medical library clerk working for the Federal Emergency Management Agency in 1984. But one of the other things I learned is it can be done, these kinds of operations, by the enemy within attacking the United States of America, like Israel. It can be open and conspicuous, and nobody cares. They've destroyed international law. Nobody cares. The rights of the accused, nobody cares. They've attacked American citizens and libeled them as illegal aliens. Nobody cares. It's very strange the way that Bill Clinton paved the way with this attitude for the double cross. Double cross, interestingly enough, is the symbol used for the underground in Casablanca, where Humphrey Bogart has the famous line Victor Laszlo, I guess is his name. For your sake, I let her pretend. They've been letting a lot of people pretend. They let Kennedy pretend he was president for a little while, sort of like a story by the Argentinian writer Borges, who Ringo Starr admires so much that he used him as a model for the way they tortured me. Who did they let pretend in the movie was Ingrid Bergman. She was couch cast as a celebrity from Nazi cinema. She got her start working for Joseph Goebbels. She portrayed Eleanor Roosevelt's best friend, Martha Gellhorn, a correspondent, pen pal of mine in her later years, and for whom the bell tolls. This is a double cross, the secret shadow, that we would let them pretend that they won World War II. We would let them pretend that Hitler didn't escape. We would let them pretend that John Lennon's murder justifies supporting those who they claim killed him. They've let us pretend a lot thanks to the Clinton swindlers. What did they swindle us of? Hope, our futures. $1 trillion is missing from the Pentagon. It was open season on our girlfriends. They weaponized friendship. They took over the St. Louis Post-Dispatch shamelessly even with the little tweaks of conscience that come out of St. Louis about the children of Gaza, they sat still as I warned them about Israel's intention to avenge Auschwitz. And of course, we now know from the book Reckoning, which was a later published 2018 revision of the situation surrounding Nuremberg, that the Holocaust survivors who founded Israel not only wanted revenge, but were saying to each other, it has to be on other innocent people too, or it isn't revenge. When they tortured me and deafened me, full view of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, you ignored my screams for help. They gave me the book That Was Then, This Is Now to read, as if the title isn't revealing enough, as if their stooge Wattenmaker's name isn't revealing enough, as if this asshole in Pittsburgh being an Attica State Prison psychiatrist and going into the children going into neuropsychiatry isn't enough. Wattenmaker. They give me That Was Then, This Is Now. If that title isn't enough, the moral is I just wanted to be sure that I hated you. Now wake up a minute. Everybody who thinks about it for a second realizes that the people who didn't stand up for the children of Gaza, the men, women, and children of Gaza, were the same people who wouldn't have stood up for the Jews. So what's making them sure that they hate us is our refusal to stand up to them. And they attack us. They attack me symbolically as a grandchild of an editor of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. From Bush's ship in the Navy, Bush's himself, his scoundrels like Wattenmaker, Clinton, Obama forced me to apologize to Yoko Ono for something that they knew perfectly well I had nothing to do with and didn't even happen. It was a symbolic apology from Little Boy from the Navy for the Little Boy bomb. They say make America great again. They're making America grovel for the very first time. And you won't find anybody who doesn't have the brain damaged presets about John Lennon being a hero to reckon with the quite properly presented evidence that he was in on it. And he faked his assassination to give them super indemnity in this circus, in this showdown with the right to tell the truth, with this mockery of human nature. Just look at the great goblin David Bowie's Diamond Dogs and compare it with the letters of Gail Burslem, who was never arrested, whose 20-foot likeness appears playing the violin next to a geisha in Seattle Center, who appeared on the cover of Other Heavy Manners by Robert Fripp in 1979. She was never arrested. 1979. I thought Lennon died in 1980. What's she doing on the cover of one of his best friend's albums if he wasn't in on it? They started the idea for this Mount Everest because it's their takeover of media to control the world in Fayoum when Britain and Italy were allies from World War I. D'Annunzio introduced D.W. Griffith, who made the Burning Cross for the KKK, to Mussolini. And then went on, his assistant director went on to make Reagan's wartime films with Errol Flynn, that full of pro-Nazi semiotics. I could pick out lines, sentences, allusions, one after another that prove this case. And you think they just left it to chance that John Lennon, who they depicted as an addled pretender of imaginary peace, he'll give you an imaginary assassination to boot. And that's how he won the war, which is the name of his favorite movie. And it will be just like Starting Over, as in an Anne Rand film from the 1950s. She specialized in science fiction about disappearing supermen, as Ouspensky calls it. This fourth-dimensional, behind-the-scenes, godlike structure is iterated in the letters of Gail Burslem. She says, I say is, not was, right at the beginning. I say is, not was. Like my father used to say, let's not, and say we did. This is Radio Free Iowa, Crary and Tacoma.